My mindset is completely different. I'm now sat on a podcast with you two. 2 years ago, I could barely sit in a meeting. I would be so nervous. My nervous system was such a state. Whereas now I have the confidence in my own body and my own mind to be sat here.
Before we dive into this week's episode, let's talk about a brand we both genuinely love, Cytoplan. You've probably heard us mention them before, and that's because their supplements are next level.
Yes, Cytoplan has been part of my routine for a while now. They just get it when it comes to health. Their whole approach is rooted in science and totally in tune with nature.
Exactly. Their formulas are bioeffective, which basically means the nutrients are in forms your body actually recognizes and uses properly and at the appropriate levels. Cytoplan is used and trusted by health practitioners across the country. Their formulas are developed by nutritional therapists and backed by over 3 decades of clinical insight. You really can feel the quality when you take them.
Plus, it's not just about what's in the bottle, it's the mission behind it too. Cytoplan is 100% owned by a charitable foundation, which means everything they do is about helping people live well for longer. It's not about trends or quick fixes, it's about real, lasting health.
That is so wonderful to know. And whether it's our energy, perimenopause, menopause itself, sleep, immunity, or just staying on top of your health, they've got you covered. You can also get a free health questionnaire and a consultation by ringing the helpline.
So if you're ready to take ownership of your health, check out Cytoplan, powered by nature, proven by science, and rooted in purpose. We'll pop the link and an exclusive 15% discount code in the show notes. Hello, I'm Karen Mellors.
Hello there, I'm Dr. Rosy Daniel.
You've just tuned in to Alive and Loving It, and we're here to help you bring joy and energy back to your life.
I first met Clare Palmer when she was working for the Academy of Nutritional Medicine as the administrator and brilliant organizer of their many illuminating conferences. And little did I know that even then and for years before, that Clare had been living with complex chronic illness and had been working with her own healing journey, finding ways, never going into any sense of victim, always stepping up and looking for different strategies, different ways to manage what was going on for her. Through this time and more recently, Clare has joined my team as a health creation mentor, and she's now giving her coaching services for people seeking well-being and empowerment. And in addition, she's trained as an EFT practitioner, that's emotional freedom technique. And she is always so resourceful, so resilient in finding ways to live well with this ongoing chronic illness state. And she is the most beautiful, resilient, kind, compassionate soul. And what is most striking, as you will hear, is the way that this deep compassion extends to herself, and she lives in a state of gratitude.
Hello, it is so very good to be back with you. I had to have a week off last week. I had to put my money where my mouth is and listen to my body. And I was a little bit poorly, so I missed the recording with Dr. Alan Watkins. But wow, Rosy, what an episode. I've listened to it twice already. Gutted that I couldn't be in the conversation, but I've had the conversation with you while I was in my bed talking back to Spotify. So it's really, really good to be back here this week. And we're on episode 21. We're coming up to the end of season 2. And what a ride this season has been. Really juicy topics and amazing guests. And it doesn't stop there, because we have a wonderful, wonderful guest with us today, Clare. You look beautiful. Please go over to YouTube, everybody, and have a look at Claire. She looks so, so beautiful. And Rosy, you've known Claire for a long time now. So how wonderful is it to have her with us and to hear her story?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Claire, for joining us for this. I know that it takes a lot to tune into what's gone on for, those of you who have journeyed for so long with chronic illness. And I just want to say that, when we first invited you to join this episode, you said, oh, but I'm not better, I'm not cured. And I thought, well, perfect, because actually that's going to be the reality for a lot of people listening, which is that some conditions just don't go away and are chronic. And that's what is so very important for us to elicit today, to talk about how you have kept your balance, found your balance, and the creative strategies that you've brought to bear. And you've put the focus on self-connection. So would you like to just explain what happened and when this started, Claire?
Yeah, thank you both so much, first of all, for inviting me. It's a huge thing for me, and I'm really honoured to be invited and be with you. And what you've just said, Rosy, is so important for me. The patient community has such a tough time, and it's so easy for people to think that another way of thinking means that it's all in their head. And that's absolutely not what we're saying here. And I really want to make that clear, that this is not, I am not cured, like just exactly what you've just said, Rosy. And I really appreciate you addressing that. Thank you. So my journey started in 2005. So just over 20 years ago. And I thought it started very simply. I went to an open air concert, very nice, beautiful summer's day. And as I was leaving, I fell over, and it was on a hill, and my left side took the brunt of the impact. But I didn't hurt myself. I got straight up. I walked away, didn't think any more of it. 10 days later, I started getting a pain in the top of my neck, gradually went down my arm, across my chest, into my back. And from then on, I had terrible, terrible chronic pain. And to the point that sometimes I couldn't even stand upright. I was walking around the house completely bent over. I was under many, many consultants, doctors. No one knew what was wrong. At the same time, my immune system completely crashed, which put everyone into a panic. But there was nobody knew at all. And it took 18 months of being incredibly, I would say, over the top, heavily medicated, to the point that I was really not functioning, having 2 children to look after, young children. So it was a complete nightmare. I lost my job. I lost my relationship, lost people around me. It was extremely difficult. After 18 months, I saw a consultant that diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. And it sounds bizarre, but I was delighted, because I thought, amazing. They know what's wrong with me. They can fix me. And I very quickly learned that is not the reality. And that was the start of 20 years of realizing we do not have a medical system that is set up for chronic illness, other than drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, and maybe CBT, graded exercise therapy, nothing that really deals with what is truly going on. And it went from there, really. I then immediately, I don't know what it was, something in me wanted to start educating. So at the time, I was very involved with the local support group, which had some amazing people in it. And we held a couple of conferences in Eastbourne, educating patients and doctors on fibromyalgia. And at that time, I invited a very prominent professor to Eastbourne. And I was then invited, after the second conference, they were so popular, I was invited to join AONM, the Academy of Nutritional Medicine. And that's where everything changed, really. I then, through the years, with an amazing team, we held conferences nationally, internationally. I managed to bring the very best experts from around the world, including Rosy for one of them. And they were very, very patient-led conferences. And one of my biggest aims was not only to get the best doctors here, but for the people to meet the doctors, because people have no access to anyone that really knows and understands what's going on. And they, for the first time in their lives, were able to be in the same room. And the doctors were amazing. They would speak to people. And this is where it went, really. And I learned through getting people, through the conferences that I was holding, I learned more about my own illness, what was going on for me. Through the years, I've been given many, many labels. I take very little notice of any of them because none of them have helped. It's not a helpful thing in my mind, and I'm speaking for myself. And then, very sadly, my daughter got very ill in 2012, life-threateningly ill. And again, another huge lesson about the medical system. And although what I've been doing for the last 15 years, my heart and soul has been in it, I always felt there was something missing and something I wasn't quite getting, and I couldn't understand it. I was doing everything I possibly could, and I was getting the best advice. Nothing was really working. I met Rosy, I can't remember exactly when, must have been 10 years ago now, and was very drawn to the work she was doing, but wasn't in a position to do anything about that. And then 3 years ago, everything changed for me. And I was also coming up to a very big birthday and made the decision that by my 50th, I wanted to be on a new path and doing something that I felt more called to do. So I started the Health Creation course with Rosy and Sue, which was utterly life-changing for me. And like we said at the beginning, I am not cured at all, but I am managing considerably more than I have ever managed. My mindset is completely different. I'm now sat on a podcast with you two. And I was thinking about this 2 years ago. I could barely sit in a meeting. I would be so nervous. My nervous system was such a state. Whereas now I have the confidence in my own body and my own mind to be sat here.
Amazing. Well, gosh, it is such a long journey, and you've said so many really important things there. But first of all, this question of stress and your nervous system.
Yeah.
We've been listening to Dr. Alan Watkins talking about the role of our emotions in creating the stress response. Tell us about the part that played, do you think, for you?
Yeah. So through the years, I have to admit, I completely blocked out that this was stress related. Totally blocked it out. I think there's a few reasons for that. I think the main reason is because I look perfectly well, as do so many people with chronic complex illness. We look absolutely fine. We present absolutely fine. But we're not. We're like ducks paddling, like under the water. And I think there's such a risk, and it's a true risk. If you go to a doctor and say, I'm so stressed, I don't know what to do, you immediately discounted anything else you've said about your physical state. And I think there's such a fear of that. I certainly would be fearful even now of having that conversation with a GP and I also think as a woman, I don't even think it has to be with chronic illness. I think as a woman, I was listening to a podcast the other day and a doctor was saying that when she was learning about menopause back when she was a student, she was told by a male doctor that any woman that came in over 45, they put down as a whiny woman. That was it. So this is why I avoided it. But what I learned with Health Creation and everything that we do and what I do now is that I have opened up completely. And when I look back, starting from about a year to when I became housebound for that first year, I had terrible stress, horrific stress, and it was prolonged. I then had the stress of the illness and losing everything around me. Then you go through a grief with the stress and with the illness. I went through several years of grieving what I'd lost, I would say. And then when my daughter became ill, I then had 10 years of sustained stress that, to be honest with you, I think I'm not even sure how I functioned, but I did. But it was, I would say, 17 years of very, very, very severe high level stress. Yeah.
So I think one of the things that you use, we're going to open up and look at all these different strategies, but I do think you worked with a heart rate variability monitor?
I did. I got myself on. I wired myself up, and I knew I was in a high alert state. I knew I was in fight or flight, and you know this and you can feel it, but to see it on your phone on an app is a whole different ballgame. And it shocked me. And I was constantly in a bad state, constantly. And every time I switched away from it, I would go back into this bad state unless I was 100% focused all the time on my breathing, on the heart coherence, on the thinking compassionately. I would immediately go back into this state. So I sat with it every day, every morning, every lunchtime, every evening, until now I can get myself into this state. And I'm not wired up constantly, but I certainly, if I was to put myself, even in this situation here, I can feel that I am in coherence, and it's
You are in coherence.
a world of difference.
Wow. So you could breathe your way into coherence.
Yeah.
Looking at your screen.
Yes, absolutely. So I would, and I do it now. I did it before this, actually. I would put my hand across my heart. I would close my eyes, and I would just breathe very deeply, very slowly. I normally think of people that I love, generally the children, my partner, my dogs, and it brings me right down. I've also learned, I don't know, Dr. Alan Watkins didn't mention it, but I am, without doubt, I'm sure he's familiar with the physiological sigh. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, but tell us.
Yeah, so you take a deep breath in, and then you take a really short breath in, and then you let a very long breath out. And I think it's Andrew Huberman's lab has found that this can get you into coherence within 1 or 2 breaths. So I would do that, and then I would go into the heart coherence technique. And what I found is that I can feel when I'm under stress or a high anxious state, I can feel my heart pounding. So I do the physiological sigh a couple of times and then go into this. And I wear a smartwatch, and you can see the heart rate just drops immediately. It's very, very effective.
Well, it's fantastic to hear that. So just to recap, the idea is that if we are in this state of balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, which is our autonomic nervous system inside of us, then the heart should just go a little bit faster, a little bit slower, a little bit faster, a little bit slower. And that produces a nice, smooth, what's called sinus heart rate variability. So is that what you were seeing, the wave, which was sort of higgledy-piggledy, becoming smooth?
Yes, absolutely. And it just, the difference was night and day. And it's just, I can just get into it immediately. And I can get into it. I don't even have to, I can switch into it now. I like, for example, if I suddenly started feeling anxious here, I'm sure I won't, but if I did, I can do it without you even seeing that I'm doing it. It's become such a habit for me.
Yes, well, I do understand what you're talking about the incredibly upsetting controversy there's been about chronic illness.
Yeah.
I was part of a clinic way back in Bristol called the Westfield Clinic, which was helping people with any illnesses to do with energy levels and, fatigue and so forth. And this controversy was raging about, is this a physical illness or is this a mental illness? Yeah. And I had just come from working in a psychiatry department with people who were depressed. And the difference between those people and the people I was seeing who had energy issues was night and day. Because the really big difference I noticed was that when people are depressed, they haven't got any mental energy. The mental energy is really, really low. Whereas every single person I met who had issues with tiredness, fatigue, had lots of mental energy. They couldn't couple it into the physical body. Yeah. And, this is part of the frustration because, the people I met was so full of ideas and passion and wanting to do things. completely different to people I'd met who were depressed, who had no motivation, didn't want to be doing things.
Yeah.
So for me, in fact, you've heard me talking about the energy graph that I teach when I'm teaching health creation, and this idea that I've drawn these lines at 30% and at 70%. And what I teach is that when our energy is below that critical 30%, it is almost impossible to help ourselves.
Yeah.
Self-help becomes almost impossible because we are either too tired or, just too flat. And that's when help that's given needs not to require effort and energy on the part of
Absolutely.
the person so that they can receive. Yeah.
I have a couple of points of what you've just said. The first one, when I listened to Dr. Alan Watkins' podcast yesterday, which was fantastic. And he said something that I hadn't really thought about, actually. And he was saying about how coherence can help your mental thoughts and your brain, how your brain works. And I hadn't actually connected the two, because one of the reasons I wouldn't have done something like this a couple of years ago was because I wouldn't trust my brain. I was so brain fogged, and I do lots and lots of different things, and I'm sure it's cumulative, but I have no doubt that it's calming the nervous system, which has allowed the space for me to be able to have the clarity of mind to be able to do something like this. And the other thing, I think I've told you this story before, when my daughter was very, very sick, and what you were just saying about the energy graph, she was easily way under 20%, terrible. And I won't go into too many details, but she had times where I would need to feed her. She was in such a terrible state. She couldn't sit up. Dreadful. What she never lost was gratitude, and what kept her going. And I feel confident in saying this because I've been there and I've been close to somebody. Even if you are in the very worst state, if you can find something to be grateful for. And I know that may not, I do know that may not land well with some people, but I believe it and I know it. I've seen it, and it's what lifted her, and it lifted both of us. Gratitude and hope. That is what lifted us both.
Well, it's really, what struck me so strongly about what Alan was saying is this thing of emotional sovereignty.
Yes.
And I think you are an absolute, I was going to say mistress of that. You have, because what Alan was saying is that it's not about pretending if we're feeling bad or upset or angry, but that ability to move ourselves into a different emotion.
Yes, 100%.
Is what he was talking about. And you say that your daughter taught you how to do that.
Yeah, she's probably the sickest, not now, she's doing very well, but at that point, the sickest person I've ever been that close to. She's also the most motivated person. And the one that I don't know anyone as full of gratitude as she is. She is awe-inspiring. Yeah, she really is. Yeah.
So, Karen, you're smiling there.
Well, I am, yeah. I'm witnessing, I have the privileged position to sit in the field and observe. And as you started speaking, what struck me straight away was the clarity that you have about yourself, your body, your condition, and wider than that, like how it impacts communities and how it impacts other people. So just wow, Claire. And as I was focusing, tuning into that clarity, I noticed I started to feel calmer. I started to feel really, my heart was pounding when we started the episode, and I started to feel calmer. And I'm not only witnessing self-regulation, I'm experiencing co-regulation over this technology. And we have never met. How powerful is that?
Totally, yeah.
And, and that happened for me this morning because I'm in the practice now of spotting when I'm in stress, because as you rightly say, it's difficult to spot. And when I was in it, I didn't realize I was. Now I look back, I can see 17 years of constant stress. I'm in a position now where I've landed in Scotland and I am purposefully bringing my nervous system down. So this morning I had the great tool of my husband, who was like, honestly, if we can bottle that you've got and he's got with all the millionaires, I lay on his chest and just listen to his breathing, and I feel myself dropping down. So, the next theme we're going into is about community, Claire.
Wonderful.
And if you can't find the self-regulation yourself, which is very difficult, it takes practice, go and be in the presence of somebody who can do it and receive and experience that co-regulation. So thank you so much. I've had a healing session here, just witnessing you and watching you go into coherence. And wow, I was just about to say the clarity of mental thought. Your words you're using, the language, how you're expressing yourself, you're able to do it because you are in coherence. What an amazing example for everybody watching this.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
I think this thing of alpha energies, we tend to go into sync with whoever's got the dominant energy around us. Certainly those of us I call us watery chameleons.
Mm-hmm.
Watery because we change shape and and colour sort of to match what's around us. And so the trouble with that is if you're then in the presence of somebody who's angry or unpredictable, or then you are moving with them. Whereas if you're in the presence of somebody who's loving and calm and kind, and the hugging guru Amma came to mind, or my teacher Ramdas, his nervous system was so stable that he could bring a room with 1,000 people in it into coherence.
Yeah.
So and that's why it's easier to learn to meditate in a group than on our own, because we start to go into a coherence, and it's a wonderful thing. They say in Swiss clock shops that the clocks all start to tick in together, and fish swim in shoals, birds fly in flocks. Did you ever wonder why birds don't bump into each other? You don't see
any rhythm with each other, aren't they? And
you don't see any mid-air crashes, do you? Because they are in coherence. But Claire, you talked when we were planning this session about the importance of self-connection. So tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah. Well, I was, I can remember for many years knowing this, but not being able to really say it out loud. And when we started Health Creation, I can remember when we were in the group, me explaining that for as long as I could remember, my mind was here and my body was way over here somewhere. And that was a very, very, very clear feeling for me. And I couldn't understand. My mind was very calm. I was okay. I was safe. My body was having a field day over here, like doing it completely its own thing. I had no control whatsoever. And what I mean by that is everything that I do, and I do many, many things, bit by bit by bit, my body is coming more and more in line with the rest of me, mind, body, spirit. I'm not sure we're completely here. I think we are completely here sometimes, but then it goes wandering off and does its own thing again. And I'm able to pull it back a little bit more than I used to be able to. But to have that connection, I do many things, including, I do the EFT tapping now, which has probably been the biggest. I saw Rowena personally for a year as well as training. And that had the biggest shift in me. And what we do is with the tapping that we are actually, because we're connecting with the body by tapping, we're actually telling the body we are safe. We're telling the amygdala that we're safe. We're reducing the cortisol. And I feel that by touching the body, and I'm all for touching the body, I tap all over the place, not just the points. So by touching the body, by tapping the body, I feel that I am connecting much more with my body. My body knows that it's okay. It knows that it's safe. I can be in, one of my problems is I can be in quite significant pain, and it's not always easy to go into complete tapping rounds or to meditate if you're somewhere public. So I just simply tap myself here and tell myself in my mind, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm with you, body. I'm sure this is going to sound mad to many people. All I would say is give it a go. And as I do it, my cortisol's dropping, my amygdala thinks, okay, we're all right now, we're safe. And it works. It doesn't cure me, but it gets me through the situation I'm in, and it's working. And I would say over time, gradually, I am getting more and more and more connected to my
body. Beautiful, beautiful. And you said in your first words that you feel your mindset has changed.
I think my mindset has changed. I've always been full of hope. That has kept me going through the years. That's a given. I've always had gratitude. What I haven't had, and I would say I do have it now, I believe I can heal. That's the difference in my mindset. I believe, and I'm not saying there's a magic cure. I do not believe it's one thing at all. And I know some people do one thing and they are cured and they're better. I don't. For me, it's a very holistic approach, and that's what's getting me into a better state. But I do see now that it could be possible to fully heal. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a big question. You said that the medical profession couldn't help you. They made things worse with all the drugs. If you were teaching a group of doctors or medical students what you would have wished for, what would have helped you?
To be believed, to be acknowledged, to be understood, to not be rushed through appointments and given heavy drugs and told to just go away. There's just so much to not be given, to be told that my very abnormal results are normal for them. That still happens. That happens a lot. Even this week, that's happened. I had years ago, I thanked a consultant who laughed at me. He just couldn't understand this. He said to me, I don't know what's wrong, and I'm sorry. And I thanked him and I said, you are literally the best person I've seen, and I appreciate you saying, I don't know. Now, I understand that's still not particularly helpful. It is an absolute minefield, but it would be a very good start, at least to be believed and not completely dismissed.
Well, and to have a doctor admit they don't know.
It's amazing. Honestly, it's like, for me, it was just like, wow, it's authentic.
Yeah,
it's authentic.
Because what you're saying, what I'm hearing is that rather than admit they don't know, they'll make you wrong, or they'll shut you down.
They make up a psychiatric diagnosis. They'll tell you it's in your head. There's horror story after horror story with this type of thing, which is a whole other conversation. And it's wrecking people's lives. It's wrecking people's lives. It's not helping people. It's not helping people. It's not giving people what they need. And everybody is different. I've never met one person with these illnesses that are the same and need the same. These are individual cases. And I realize the system is so overloaded, but I also believe it's overloaded because people are sent down the wrong way. I don't know how we get back from it, but, for me, I certainly think, and I've always felt, which is why I've always wanted to do the conferences, educate the people to help themselves. Knowledge is power. I've always believed that.
Yeah, I had a client not so long ago who was had a chronic illness and a lot of pain, muscle pain, and she was aware that she had some chemical sensitivities, quite a number of chemical sensitivities, and she was being offered chemotherapy. And I was saying, this is not a good idea. We need to approach this with great caution. I wrote to the head of the local unit and said, we have to think about this, how this can be managed. Yeah. And they said, oh, well, we'll just try the usual dose and see. And, you know, surprise, surprise, the lady was really ill, and went into a breakdown because she had been trying to tell them, I had been trying to tell them, this is not going to work. We have to adjust and flex with this. You know, you cannot give this person standard chemotherapy. But I wasn't believed.
No,
You know, she wasn't believed.
Exactly. And what I've always thought with it, I know it's a broad statement, but they don't seem to have the nuance. They don't, you know, there's no nuance with it. There's like they won't listen and think, okay, let's adapt slightly for her. Let's try this. And no, it's our way. Or that's it. And probably, they probably didn't believe it, Rosy. They probably didn't believe it.
So with your amazing strategies, you know, I know that you have taken time in the forest and developed a lot of sensitivity to energy and other people's energy.
Yeah.
Give us a sense of this, you know, how you're managing yourself and managing to keep yourself in such a good state of balance.
Well, I give you an average day, and and it's a lot. I do a lot. But it's simple stuff, and it's stuff that doesn't cost. So the first thing I do in the morning, no matter how I feel, is go and stand in the garden barefoot. That's the first thing I do. And again, it might sound a little bit mad to everybody, but I say good morning world and good morning to the birds, and we have beautiful squirrels and we have a gorgeous garden behind us, and I say good morning to the trees, and it starts with gratitude and awe. And that makes me immediately feel better and immediately feel coherence. I do yoga nidra and meditation at least once a day. I don't know if you're familiar with yoga nidra. So, and that is very, very simple. It's a case of putting headphones on and listening. It's a relaxation that can be for 20 minutes or an hour. And that I tend to fall asleep, and that's completely fine to fall asleep if what my body needs. And that the yoga nidra has probably been one of the main things I've done for calming the nervous system. I do the EFT. I tap at least once a day, and I tap through the day as well to remind myself. I do journaling. I don't journal every day, but I certainly is something that I find very useful, especially if I do get overloaded in my mind. I find that getting it out onto paper. I've also realized, because I get a lot of migraine, I've also realized if I use my hands, I can get the pain from my head to my hands. Not that the pain goes into my hands, but it can, I find cooking, if I start just basically getting out of my head, that is a very, very useful thing. What else do? I do shiatsu a couple of times a month, which was something else I learned with Health Creation. And again, a couple of years ago, I would see the same lady actually, who is wonderful, and she could barely touch me because my body was over here somewhere, not feeling safe in this high alert state. Whereas now, the more I brought it in alignment with myself, we can do a lot more with the shiatsu. And I've had some quite significant breakthroughs with the shiatsu, which has been amazing.
So I'm getting that sense of the extreme sensitivity.
Extreme sensitivity. Yeah. Very, very highly sensitive. Yeah.
Yes, which I know is a new phrase, isn't it? Highly sensitive person.
Yeah.
But you said to me a while back, you know, that I am not a victim.
I'm not a victim.
I think that's, was that always the case? Did you not?
Always been the case. It's always been the case. And I'm not going to sit here and say I never have a day where I think, why me? Why is this happening? How can this still be happening? I really resonated actually, Karen, in your podcast when you said about this. And I would say it's only in the last year, interestingly, that I have allowed myself to feel sorry for myself occasionally. And that's perfectly fine, because I have every right to feel sorry for myself when I'm on day 5 or 6 of a migraine. I have every right to feel sorry for myself, but I never unpack and I never stay there. And if I were to, I would not be able to do what I do, because I need to be in that higher state to be able to function and to be able to live and to be able to teach and tell people and do everything I want to do. I will never unpack there.
I love that. I don't unpack and stay there.
No, never.
say that before. That's just brilliant, Claire.
But I do allow it now. Whereas I think before I was almost telling myself, no, I mustn't feel sorry for myself. I mustn't. But that's completely fine. It's all part of being in connection with my body and how I'm truly feeling and processing that emotion.
Well, Alice Miller, who wrote the book, I think it's called The Drama of Being a Child, she says that our deeper healing starts when we become able to grieve for ourselves. If we've been very frightened and we're looking out to try and stay safe and keep safe, managing the external environment, we don't feel compassion for ourselves because we are looking out literally for where danger is coming from.
Yes, I can completely relate to that. Yeah,
I think that what she's saying is that, at the point that we feel safe enough to feel our grief, that, that this is a huge moment, and which is different from feeling like a victim.
Yeah, totally.
It's feeling, actually.
That's exactly what it is. It's feeling and allowing the emotion to be processed rather than pushing it down.
It's a very, very natural, normal process that at an age when our nervous systems are not mature enough to feel intense emotion, we create from somewhere within this coping mechanism. And that's where we connect, Claire, because I remember the moment when I was 14 years old that I say, I am not going to be a victim. And it got me through those teenage years. And only when I was coming up into my early 50s is my nervous system, does it have the capacity to then drop the coping mechanism and allow my heart to open and start to feel and process what was absolutely the right emotion for the trauma that I went through. All at the right time, divine timing, definitely.
It is all at the right time. That's exactly it. It all happens when I believe it all happens when it's supposed to happen.
And I think in our training group, it was a very safe space.
Incredibly safe space. Yeah.
Karen, that's what you do with your circles. You create a very safe space and let people start to literally feel, because when we're in that high alert, we're not in a feeling state. We're running and thinking how to get out of there. Or
we're staying safe, aren't we? Survival.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be in a space where you can come into coherence, like you've beautifully demonstrated for us. And in that place, then you sort of sense the environment, that the environment's safe enough for me to let this go, and then it can release. And it's the most beautiful healing moment. We need more of these places.
We absolutely do.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Claire, so much.
Thank you.
As I say, it's very precious to have a glimpse of your world, and just so much honour and respect for how you have danced with this difficulty and managed to hold your balance and get yourself into this wonderful space.
Oh, thank you so much, both of you.
I feel very honoured, Claire, that you've come to this place and you felt safe enough to share it here with us. And it's a very sacred place. And when somebody shares with you, witness that and honour it and respect it. Don't try and change the experience. That's all we need to do, is witness with love. So thank you so much.
Thank you both so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Alive and Loving It. We really hope that today's conversation has sparked your passion and showed you ways to open up into the vibrant life that's possible for you.
Absolutely, Rosy. I mean, we do have to remember that transformation begins with love, and that is self-love, love for others, and love for our beautiful planet. When you embrace love and you just allow yourself to receive as much as you give, you unlock the fullest potential of your life.
That is the truth, Karen. And we're here to support you every step of the way on your journey. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, please join our community and check out our trainings and our services, such as my Dr. Rosy Daniel Clinic and Karen's beautiful Women's Circle
circles and retreats, and the events where we can all go deeper together. And do please send us your feedback. We want to hear your ideas for the podcast, who you'd like us to interview, and the questions you want us to ask and get answered. Through the contact page on our website, just go to aliveandlovingit.org.
I've really enjoyed reading them. But when you're there, be sure to sign up for our newsletter and updates. And what about following us on Instagram as well? We are at Alive and Loving It Community. Once you've signed up to the newsletter, you'll receive extra notes from today's show and more inspiration to help you live your most vibrant life.
Thank you for being with us. Keep shining, stay true to yourself, and remember, this is your time to live your fullest, healthiest life.
So until next time, keep doing what you love most in life. I know Rosy and I will be. We're so excited to connect with you on the next episode of Alive and Loving It. And we welcome you with open hearts to our Alive and Loving It community.